Hey guys, welcome back to Mornings with Granny. I thought I would come outside and do this video. I'm sitting out here on the swing enjoying this nice breeze that we have today, as you can see. It is the same day, I've got the same shirt on, but I wanted to go ahead and do this video. Let's see if I can get you just a little bit better here. That's a little bit better. There you go. Anyway, we were talking about food, and we talked about putting a supply of food up for however long you think you need to. And one thing that someone mentioned is don't forget the can opener. Well, I was going to tell you that, but yeah, don't forget the can opener. Make sure you got a good manual can opener, because you're going to be aggravated if you got all those cans and can't get in them. A lot of them now, they come with the pop top, so that's good. But one person, or a couple of people, I guess I should say, asked about, said they'd rather stock up on frozen vegetables. Well, that's well and good. But what if the power goes out and it's out for a while? If you invest heavily in food for freezer and refrigerator, do you have a generator? Okay, well, you can run the generator and keep it going for a few days. But what happens if you can't get gas to keep that generator going? And then the next thing would be, well, I got a solar generator. Okay, well, you got a solar generator. What if it happens during a storm or winter time and there's not much sun to charge it? And there's no way for you to get the power. Like I said, luckily, the most I've ever been without power has been 2 weeks, and that was during Hurricane Hugo. But there's always that possibility. It could be a month, it could be 2 months. I hope it never happens in my lifetime, but it might. So you just never know. I mean, when the power goes out now, we call and they say, yeah, it'll be back on at 3 hours or whatever. You know, we're working on it. And fortunately, it usually is. I think in this house I've been, I think it was 4 days without power. But you just never know. So you need to think about that. That's why I say you need to get more shelf-stable food. It might not taste as good, but it's still there for you. Another thing is to figure out how you're going to cook it. If you got a gas stove inside, well, that's all well and good. Well, if the gas runs out. So you got to ask yourself these questions, because you never know from one day to the next when something's going to happen. And hopefully it'll be remedied right away, but you never know. It could last a month or two or longer. You just don't know. I mean, you never know. So you've got to think about these things. If I got a gas stove, my gas runs out, what's my next option? Okay, well, I got a camp stove, all right? If that gas, the bottled gas runs out, what are you going to do? Cook on a grill that uses charcoal. Charcoal runs out, what are you going to do? Now, when I was in the mountains, we cooked out over a wood fire most of the time. So you've got to think, do you have matches? Do you have a fire starter? Do you have access to wood? Can you get out and build a fire? Are you able to get out and cook on one? You've got to go through all these scenarios in case something happens and it lasts longer than you expect. Another thing you have to look at too is water. What if your water goes out? Now, I have a pond right across the street here. I'm sure I could get water out of it if I had to. Maybe you collect rainwater. Now, I live in town, so hardly ever, I don't think I've ever lost water since I've been here, and we've lost power several times, but not water. But that's not going to always be the case. I mean, it could happen. You could lose water. You never know. So you need to plan on having water. When you're collecting that food for your storage, you need to think, do I have to add water to this? How long have I got to cook it? Like my friend that I was telling you about with the dry food, she said, I'm going to go get 50 pounds of dried beans. Well, if you're not going to can those dried beans, it's not a good move, because how are you going to cook them? Dried beans take a long time to cook. And if you're limited on how to cook and you're limited on water, you don't want dried beans. So you need to think about that. Another thing you need to think about is gardening. Now, in I think it's the UK and Sweden, I believe. There's a documentary on Sweden preppers, and there's one on the UK because of them um, doing the Brexit thing, pulling out. And they're telling people to plant gardens because they might not be able to get the food in. And Sweden is doing it because I think they said because they're afraid of Russia invading, I believe is what they said. But you can watch the documentaries on YouTube. But they're telling them to plant. They even sent, in Sweden, they sent books out to every household telling them how to prepare. So you need to learn how to plant a garden. If you can't do a big garden, that's okay. I mean, even if you do a 10 by 10, it's going to produce a lot of food. Now, I have plenty of space that I can do a garden, but I'm not able to do a big garden anymore. So, but I could, if I had to, plant food right up here next to the house, just a little bit. You could do a container garden if you're in town. So there are ways to do a small garden if you don't have anything but a couple of tomato plants. You can do something. Like I said, you need to learn to can. You need to learn to dehydrate. And when my grandmother canned, she didn't have a pressure cooker. She had a big cast iron pot that they put over a fire in the yard, and she canned in half-gallon jars because she had so many kids. And when it come to dehydrating, she put the stuff outside, and I don't know how they kept the insects off of it, especially ants. But I have seen my grandpa take a screen door and build a frame for it and lay the screen door flat, and then lay the food on it so the air could get up through the screen door, and they would cover it with cheesecloth. And I've even seen them lay cheesecloth across the hedges and put the food there to dry. So there are different ways to do that. So you need to learn how to do that too. Another thing you need to think of in a worst case scenario is anybody in your family that will fish or will hunt. And if so, do you know how to clean those animals? Do you know how to preserve those animals? My grandpa used to go out in the woods back of the house. He had rabbit boxes and squirrel boxes. He would catch them, kill them, and we'd have them for dinner that night. But you got to be willing to clean that animal. I mean, can you go that route? Can you do that? I don't think I could. I think I'd just be eating vegetables, but I don't know because I've never been in that bad of a situation. But that's another thing you need to think about. You know, the way they used to preserve meat was salt and also by smoking it. So you need to think about that too. Now, I'm not trying to be a doomsayer or create a panic. I'm just telling you, think past the power going out or the grid going down, however you want to say it. Think past it happening for more than a day or two. I mean, like I said, we've been fortunate it hasn't happened that long, but what if it does happen for a long time? What if it's a couple of months? Somebody's got their music loud. But you need to think about these things. You need to go step by step through your head. Okay, well, if this happens and power's off for this many days, we can do this. Okay, if it goes into this many days, we're going to have to do this. And you might be in a position where you can't get out and go get anything, or everybody else got the same idea at the same time, and there was a run on the store and there's nothing there for you to get. So my suggestion would be prepare some before a situation happens. Hopefully it'll never happen. It will never happen. Another thing you need to think about as far as food goes is animals. Now I've got my little spoiled dog down there, and he likes homemade food, which I know I still haven't done the video on. But I do have some canned food for him in case I can't make his canned food. Maybe we're somewhere out of town and he's out of the homemade food, or maybe I get sick and can't make it. But there are possibilities that you can't get to the store to get your animals food, so you need to have a little bit ahead. I've been trying to keep him a year ahead, but I think I'm down to like 6 months ahead now, so I kind of need to restock him. And you need to consider them getting water too, because they have to have water also. But those are things you need to think about. Now, there's a lot more to think about, as far as prepping goes. And we're going to go over more things because I can think about 3 more things I want to hit on. But like I said, go through your cabinets, make a list of what you think you need, make a list of foods that you don't have to cook for a long time, make a list of foods that you think would be the most nutritious, that you get more bang for your buck, so to speak. And start preparing, even if it's only a couple of dollars a week. You can't always depend on other, excuse me, other people, and you can't always depend on the government because you don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how long it's going to be. And those are things that you need to think about. I don't mean get obsessed with it. I mean just think about it and use common sense. All right, this is Mornings with Granny, so I'm going to let you go for now. I'm going to sit here, I think, and read and enjoy this beautiful day. Bye-bye.